I have clothes on my bed. I stuck them away out of frame. It's called movie magic, baby.
Yeah, that's Hollywood this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright. Hello!
Hola.
Who are you?
I'm Zach, joining Dan.
I'm me and I need to shave.
I live in a perpetual state of I need to shave, so I understand.
Great. This is the Tokyo Ghoul after show.
For episode 4?
4. It's all just starting to blur together a little bit, honestly. Just like the days of the week.
Every day.
But
But
synchronized sip there. I like that.
indeed. But yeah, so today was an awesome episode. Yesterday. Today I watched it.
That's my fault.
Indeed. But yeah, thank you for joining us. We're going to sort of go over the basics of the episode and some of the issues and some of the sort of deeper considerations about it.
Many issues.
Yeah.
I guess what did you think?
Overall, I it was entertaining. Like, I enjoyed watching it, but I'm coming into several of the episodes have the same kind of problem for me in that they're struggling, I think, as writers to hit like heavy points to make like solid moments, because some of the episodes just all kind of blur, and it's just, and when you're done, you don't really remember any singular thing that happened because it's just like one long piece of narrative. They have struggled with like climactic scenes. It's like the whole entire first 4 episodes have been a build up to something else. Like the only thing I really like heavily remember was the very end of this episode. But again, it was entertaining. There was no real highlights for me, and there's some important things that I feel like they missed, and less of like story-wise, more of like in terms of from the directing of it and the writing of it. That's more my issue. How about yourself?
It was kind of a setup episode, but not as enjoyable as the last episode. Mm-hmm. I feel like. I thought we were going to get more into the meat of it because of how we opened up with into Toru just being in the auction immediately.
Yeah. And they kind of took like a back step on that.
Yeah, which I figured they would do because it's like you being the writer, I don't write TV or movies or anything or scripts. But I saw that coming. It's like, oh, they're opening Toru. It's like, okay, so there's either just going to just jump right into the auction, or they're going to jump back and give us a little setup into that point, and which is what they ended up doing, the latter and the former. But they touched on there's very small moments that I liked, but overall it was an underwhelming episode. But because I'm a little fanboy, I did get excited about certain things that were shown for a moment.
Yeah. I feel like the main thing was introductions, because this episode introduced several very important things, like the clowns first of all. Like that, actually, now that I think about it, that was one of the highlights of the episode for me, was the beginning, that like awkward clown sort of party moment, and you kind of saw them being silly, and later on you get to see that they're also vicious creatures they're not to be fucked with. But yeah, like it was a kind of cool intro to the clowns. Like they had this silly moment on stage with like jumping off of each other and acting like a Three Stooges kind of situation. And then same with Takizawa at the end. The same with like when Mato, the first time she shows up being an awesome like badass 3 blades.
Yo, that was like, she had the same like look as her dad. Yeah, like
that was super cool.
Yeah.
And I don't even think that was that was in the manga. Like that was a good directorial choice. I enjoyed that quite a bit. But yeah, so that's just the general overview. Small note on the moving on, just sort of to more specific stuff. The art to me was very frustrating in this episode. This is something that I bring up a lot that I don't know if you'll notice. If you watch it a second time, you'll notice.
Oh no, there are certain things. There are very either they were choices and they weren't done well, and I understand them, or I just straight up didn't like what they changed.
Yeah, and for me, like, one of the things is I feel like this episode was cheapened a little bit by how hard they have to censor. Because, for instance, like, one of the big things, so when Juzo, like, busts out and her knee pops open, which, by the way, for anyone that only watched the anime, that is an important thing. In the anime, she broke her leg in the fight with Yoshimura. In this, you see what actually happened. She got her leg cut off, and so she has a fake leg where she hides her scorpion blades, which is super sick. They did that, but then rather than like kind of showing the action, animating it, they do like a still frame kind of movement, like a still frame roll, which is an animation choice. But I feel like it was it was boring, and they did that several times. And then even when Heise, like the one time that he slices the dude in half, it was like this sort of like simple. He did like one move, like they kind of they made it. There was a lot of potential for really cool action in this episode, and the only time you got pretty cool action was kind of the
the Tri-Blade.
Was Tri-Blade got a cool moment, but then in the end when Mutsuki and the Torso and Kane are all in the room, like that's the only time you saw kind of actual action, and it felt cheap to me. It felt like I watched the whole episode and there was like a lot of points where I was like, yeah, this is gonna be sick, and then just nothing really happened. When Ayato attacks Juzo.
Yeah, that was that was very underwhelming, mostly because it's like, okay, either he is now a Kakuja, and I don't really care for his Kakuja form.
Oh, that armor that he was wearing?
No, not the armor. His Kagune, it's like solid now,
that's what I was talking about like 2 episodes ago.
And so I'm sitting here going, like, okay, either he's a Kakuja now, which is like cool and but like a cool development, accurate. But it's like not in a visually a way that I want it, or they changed his Kagune, which I loved. His Intokas and like those types of Kagunes,
because they look like fire,
like the wings of like just like exactly liquid fire, and just like these beautiful, essentially butterfly wings, and because like one of the biggest moments for me was in season 1 where what you call it, Nishio Senpai's girlfriend's on the altar or whatever, and Toka's are gonna come up and kill her because like she's like, she can't know, blah 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 blah, and she just turns around and she sees Toka and she goes and she just says like, you're beautiful, and just like and everything, and like that was a huge like moment where I was just like,
That's a huge moment for the story.
No,
too.
Exactly. And then now
Toka kind of saw like, oh my god, like I don't feel like a monster for one of the first times. It was wonderful.
Exactly. And so it was just like. And so now that they've changed him, it's just like, okay, we either need to develop more about him being a Kakuja now, and probably change the animation, or they need to, I don't know. Like I completely agree.
Like it kind of has like a carapace kind of feel to it, and like and what was that chest plate? Does he wear armor, or is that part of?
It's either part of his Kakuja, or he's actually just wearing chest armor, because you saw that. Mato, she was wearing, which I thought was like kind of like interesting but cool at the same time. She had like armor on, and then she had her blazer on over the top of it. I'm like, all right, that's
but it
cool.
Makes sense for Mato.
Yeah,
it doesn't really make sense for them, because even if you have armor,
well, like, the thing is that he's playing security detail against potential an incursion of doves during the auction, and the doves are the only ones who contain weapons that can physically harm ghouls.
That's true.
Like, it's just normal bullets don't do anything, knives don't do anything. The only thing that can do it is Kagune and Quinkys.
Yeah.
And so that makes sense for him to wear some sort of
But the armor
protection.
would have, what I'm saying is like, unless the armor is a Kakuja, it wouldn't do anything.
Yeah.
So like that, they're kind of implying that it's a Kakuja, but he doesn't have one.
Yeah.
Like he's not, even though he's double S rated, he doesn't have a Kakuja. It's weird. Point being, that was silly to me, and I feel like the art was, and so now from reading into it, apparently like the studio that owns it is outsourcing a lot of this, so each episode is having like different kind of problems with their art. Like sometimes it's very stale, sometimes using still images, sometimes the animations.
Because at the end of the episode, like you were saying with Tsukiyama's like underling, like that stuff was great. It was animated absolutely phenomenally. Like I was just like the Kagune and everything. I was just like, this is entertaining. But then the one before with Ayato and Juzo, I was just kind of like.
Yeah, it's sort of stressing me out about that, but that was my only big thing. Because like I will say like the frames were great. Like there was a lot of really pretty shots, a lot of pretty things, but it wasn't. But I don't know. It's like they have good artists and poor animators in this episode, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I would love to have the consistency that we had with season 1 and season 2 as far as the battles and go, well, yes, sometimes it was a little bit visually overwhelming to see, but it also but that's like how it is in the manga.
Yeah, the manga is almost disorienting. It's so like.
But I feel like but the thing is like, yeah, I can understand how someone would not like that, but it's also a choice by the artist to make it like that, and it also tells the story of like, yo, they're moving really quick, and there's a lot of shit going on, like, you know, which is probably why they are, you know, that's why the art style it is how it is, and it makes sense, and now it's just stagnant.
Indeed. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Character-wise, one, we got the introduction of the fucking TL, which is gonna be awesome. Like, Takizawa is such an awesome character.
So for anyone who hasn't read, this is the first time that you've seen Takizawa
back
since the end of season 2, and so huge character turnaround.
Yeah, because that'd be huge. Like, so I mean, we read it, so we're not as surprised. But if you just watch the anime and suddenly when Edo turns around, it's just like, you ready, Takizawa? That would have had to be a huge moment. Because it was cool for me, and I even I watch it and read it and know what is going to happen, and still I was like, yeah. And they pulled that same line where he's just like, I'm hungry, and throws his hands in his mouth. Takizawa is such an animal.
Yeah. It's like picking a fresh pineapple.
Yeah, and in the end, the last tiny moment of the thing for next week, where you see him with his crazy eyes and his crazy mouth.
Yeah.
The animation on him is really good.
I hope that's not a letdown like it was with Yato today.
I know. I just want to see more fighting, because there's. I don't know. We're
not asking for Dragon Ball Z fighting. We're asking for
just don't
real combat, real combat.
I mean, because if you're gonna show part of it, just don't tease me. Show me the whole thing. I want to see it.
Yeah. As far as characters though, the investigator at the very end, who is thinking back on his first experience with Arima, I really really liked him. And then they killed him.
Yeah, that's typical Tokyo Ghoul. Here's an awesome guy. Here's an awesome character, and the possibility for some really cool development. Yeah. And he's dead.
Which is what is what the show has always done, where they take it's not at the same level as Attack on Titan, but they're definitely not afraid to dispose of characters. Where it's just we don't and I really do admire that, where they're willing to do things with characters that can be controversial. For example, my sister, she's really not happy with Heisei. She's not happy that Kaneki is not Kaneki anymore, and that really bothers her. And it bothers her that Juzo doesn't have white hair and things like that. But these are character changes. Because you and I we talked about it a little bit a couple days ago, how why Juzo's hair is brown or black now is because my hypothesis is that he's finally over the trauma of what he went through as a prisoner with the madam, and he's kind of found his center. Yes, he still is the same self, but he's not a loose cannon like he was.
It's also been 2 years. Might just grown out.
Yeah,
I just grown through that way.
Just stopped dyeing it or something. Yeah, but it's just it's a thing. And
it's a huge, but it makes sense. The character development that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
The only other the big two characters. One thing I think it was kind of a highlight is between Mutsuki and Torso.
Dude, I don't know what his deal is with her. I'm not sure if it's it's I feel the lines for me at least are being blurred between genuinely caring about someone and genuinely wanting to kill someone. Because I can't tell, because it's I understand him going after her to want to have her for himself, but I'm not entirely getting those vibes.
So I'm gonna, without getting spoilerish, just sort of thinking, even from what we've seen, from what we know about Torso, what we heard even in the anime, is he was basically a serial killer amongst ghouls. Less of him, he was less of just someone going out and feeding. He would take he would take young girls that looked about the same
with scars,
and he would would cut their arms and legs off and just keep the torso and head. That's what he did.
Yeah.
Thinking just on this is actually an interesting thing that they're doing. So they're kind of shaping him up to be he's sort of moving the plot of all 4 of the last episodes, and I think he probably will continue for the next 2 or 3, as long as they go through this, all the way up through the Rosenwald arc. Because what happens, or what he has done is he's formed an obsession, and I think the line is blurred, and I think the line's blurred for him, and I think they actually are doing a really good job. And the voice actor, even though like I'm reading subs, like just the way he is emoting this character, I think is really good, because it is like he seems like he cares, but it's this insane care, like it's this insane obsessive, like I love you, but I might eat you, like, which is very Tokyo Ghoulish. Ghoulish. But that is I think that's an important part, and Mutsuki is doing well. Like again, also the voice actor in that I think is really well, and both of them are having this really strange understanding, because if you saw, the animators did a pretty good job of, she kind of looked at him as like saving her for a second, and then she's like, oh my god, you're that dude that beat the shit out of me in a cab.
Yeah.
That's probably not good.
Yeah.
And this is actually, I'm really excited to see where they go with it. I can't really go into much more without like spoiling stuff, but if they do it right, exactly what you said, like that line is a very important line, and that is something that comes up, and there's another thing that that the writing in this is very good about in the actual manga is blurring the lines of obsession, need, desire, where do I belong, what do I want, how do I validate my existence, like all that shit. And he will dig into that.
Yeah, for him, it's and like bouncing again off the torso. It's not it's not the half ghoul or the one-eyed ghoul thing that really does it for the torso. It's the fact that it's the scars. You know, that's what's getting him going. He's not at least from my understanding, he's not interested in Toru because of the same reason that everybody else was. He has a very specific thing. Like he was into Toru before he knew she was one-eyed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like a big part of it is also it's kind of this like you got away kind of thing. Because I mean, if you're
White Buffalo,
a serial killer, and you get and someone escapes you, then like an obsession just continues. Like I need to find that, to get back and to get that. And so that's a huge thing. And it is kind of driving the plot, which is maybe a good thing and maybe a bad thing, because they're like, one thing that I'm fearing is that they're going to really skip out on how important the Juzo Madam relationship is in this. Like this. Yeah,
I feel like at least in the manga, the whole run of that arc, there's a lot going on, but the final note should be that relationship and kind of the like resolving and defining what that was, and kind of closing the book on that.
Absolutely, I completely agree. One of the coolest things that we both talked about a minute ago. So there's as always in this series, there's so many things that get really like kind of philosophical and kind of psychological about the characters, and really dig into how their brains work and how the stories moved along. One of the coolest moments is this investigator in the end that you just talked about a minute ago. But he has a moment where when he's watching the Q Squad do this crazy shit and realizing that he's like, even though he's a senior investigator and they're rank 1 or lower,
he's witnessing the coming of like the next generation.
Yeah.
Which he had seen before.
Yeah, and he has that really cool moment where he sees this, and like you said, like that generation's coming up, and he's realizing how worthless he is, and then he's like, oh my god, like this didn't start with them, this started with Arima. And that is, I think, a huge thing that they're going to get into, and I like how they did it, because he has a moment, and he has a very important line where he's like, yeah, like I saw God, and looking up to how, and he is kind of the voice of Shui in this. In the fact that like the person that's sort of moving the plot along is kind of behind the scenes is Arima.
I would say that I mean you may know this, but just going off of that, where the person really kind of crafting what's happening, at least in the organization, and those movements forward in the story. I would say that I mean I don't think we know yet, but I would say that Arima and Uta are kind of the same as far as like where I feel like. This is one of my predictions, but I feel that Uta is the chief, the head architect and the mastermind behind a lot of the things. Like the auction, like season 1, season 2, we had this weird feeling that like Tsukiyama was like, the curator of like the auction. He was like the head of this, but it kind of turns out that he was just like a participant that ended up being like involved. And I feel like Uta and the clowns are pulling the strings in kind of like a Heath Ledger Joker-ish kind of manner.
And it does, like, I mean, even where I'm at, I don't know. Like, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell ever in this series who's in charge because it switches every freaking chapter. But no, like, even just without digging into too much, like prescribing exactly who is what, just thinking of, like the usage of the word God is really heavy in this. Because, like, of course, this series is big on, like, control and the idea of, like, the birdcage and how we are trapped as people and how we're trapped in this weird system and, like, if there is a God, if there isn't a God, all this shit, like, it gets really heavy. And so the fact that they chose to use the terminology of that, it's kind of saying, like, psychologically, it's less about Arima being in charge, it's more about what Arima represents. So when you have a character say, like, I saw God, when you saw a child, because at the time, the image you saw, it was Arima when he was only 16.
Yeah.
And so you see this, and then you recognize that, like, this is a person who's going to change everything because it's a godly being. And that's heavier than just saying, like, he's the boss, he's in charge. That's more saying, this is a person that's above me, above us, above everything. And I think that is a big hint in this show. And that's not me spoiling things. That's, like, I legitimately think that just the way they see him and that terminology really shows kind of what this show is getting into, of how they're weak, they're smaller, and they're beings that are just bigger and moving pieces and doing these things. And part of what the CCG and the Q Squad and the Agorgy and everyone, sometimes they have to, like, recognize that there's, like, a submission of power. And that is really huge. And I think that line was really, it encapsulated that whole thought process of, oh my God, like, I'm just a pawn in all of this.
Yeah. No, and it's easy to see that because you have the second Washu who's sitting there being like, he has his own goals and aspirations, and he sees all of these people as disposable for whatever his end goal is. Which you know, he says, he's like, I have to say that, you know, civilians are the top priority.
Which is huge.
But he's like, but I don't really care. It's like, I just want to, you know, I want to have a successful operation that, like, kills the big madam, and success for him is defined by getting that end goal. It doesn't matter. It's like, oh, we lost half of our, even if he lost half the doves that he had, as long as he got done what he needed to get done, he'd be like, it was a successful mission. He would. Which is also
interesting because, like, that kind of shows, like, it's not really utilitarian. If he was utilitarian, it would be more like save more of the people and we'll do the best good, but he's not really doing that. That kind of showed that what are his motives? Like, he's up to something. If he is the leader of the CCG, whose job is specifically to protect humans against ghouls, like, he points out that that's not the point today. The point is to get rid of this character, this piece of the puzzle. Like, that's huge. And so I think that is a very interesting point that he made that, and I'm excited to see what he does, because he is obviously up to some shit, and they give him enough screen time that he's gonna matter more in the future. But yeah, those were, like, the coolest, like, philosophical kind of points of it. And yeah, kind of like, where do you think, what do you think is coming up next? Like, with next episode, where do you think we're going? Is it just gonna be a bunch of fighting? Which is kind of okay. I
mean, I'd be okay with that, but I feel like when you think about all the fights that are going to be happening in potentially in the next episode, because you have Nutcracker fight, you have the Naki fight, you have the Ayato fight, you have the Takizawa fight, you have then you have the Juzo fight. And so we have five. Count them, 5.
Did you mention the Utaromo one as well?
Oh, 6. So there's 6 fights going on, 6 scenes of combat that we could potentially see. I wouldn't be surprised if they dragged it out into 2 episodes and did, like, whether they jumped between all 6 between the 2 episodes, or if they did, like, 3 and then, like, another 3. Or I don't know how they're going to orchestrate that, but I kind of want it to be combat, but I also need that. I want them to heavily get into. If you've read the manga, this is kind of a spoiler. I want them to really get, which they should, because he is the main character of the show. How do I say? And Ayato, with which they have they revealed in the show who's in the mask with the hood and who can hear multiple all the things like going
I
on
don't
with
think
like
so.
Super NES.
I don't think they revealed that.
But I want that. I feel like that should be the main focus of. If not, I feel like it should be next episode, and then the last episode should be Juzo and Madam. And I feel like, and then I feel like we can bounce around to like
because they're gonna have to kind of
Naki.
pick. Like if they try to do all of it in episode 5 and all of the things that they lined up, they're gonna mess it up. Like I think that would be best is if they kind of switch it up. Like okay, here's all the things that are going on. What's going on outside of the auction and what's going on inside of the auction, and do it in 2 episodes. And so you could do Juzo and Mutsuki in 1 episode, and then stick with Heisei and like Naki and Mato and all those people in a different episode, and that would clean it up, allow some fights, and really let them dig into it. Because the Heisei stuff, they need to start really digging into that character. I hope they do.
I feel like, because this year we really got into it in the first couple episodes of just where we are. Like, with Heisei was like end of episode 1, beginning of episode 2 was great. End of episode 2, we really dug in. Episode 3 was a setup, and like we didn't really see him this episode. Heisei. Yeah, he just kind of did his thing and then
one
ran
awkward
past.
sword slash, which his Queen case is supposed to be broken. If you remember, he broke it in Nishio broke it in the first episode.
I mean, it's not like I feel like
why
you
is
can get
it
a
still?
replacement.
Can you fix a Queen case? I don't really know.
You can get a new one.
Yeah, but it's the same. It's the same one. It's the exact same blade. It's one of our Remus blades. Anyway, but yeah. So my like kind of final thoughts on this episode. Like I enjoyed what happened. I enjoyed watching it. I was let down by like no real standouts. I was kind of blue balled by all the fights. Like it all like started and got real exciting and then just was done. I will give an honorable mention to Naki, he was like one of the most fun parts when he jumped off the building and started fighting. He's insane. The fact that he keeps yelling "yeehaw" as he fights. I love Naki. Yeah. He's bananas. And I love that he still talks to Jason and he calls him Boss God, which is amazing. So he was kind of the standout for me. But all in all, I'd give it like a 7 just because I feel like nothing really happened. Like it was another build-up when this shouldn't have been the build-up episode.
Yeah. I agree. For Naki, obviously, it was exciting. I do personally like Ayato's character a lot, and so I wish we got a little bit more. I feel like if this episode just too much was happening, I feel like they should have chose something to be the core of the episode and kind of go with it, whether it was like the auction part with like Toru and Juzo, or whether it was like the invasion coming in, because like we could have got to the point where Heisei splits off from the Quink squad and the Quinks go do the Nutcracker thing, and then Heisei does his thing that he's supposed to do, and we didn't get there. But probably my favorite moment was when Mato she got the Mato face. Yeah,
that was cool. When like one of her eyes kind of closed up. And she looked all nuts.
Like where she I mean, and rightfully so. She should go a little crazy, due to what she has personally been through. But I think she has it reined in more than her dad did. But I would have to honestly, I would give the episode like a 6. Yeah, it was while I did enjoy it, it was very I wasn't satisfied in a lot of things as far as like what happened. Like everything that happened wasn't enough of it happening, except for Takizawa's entrance was
money. Yes. And another honorable mention. One of the highlights of the entire episode was the happening next week. Because it was so scary. It was serious.
They do a really good job of those. Those are done well every year.
Like they should get the animators that do that to do the rest of the episode, because that shit was awesome. And it ended on that final shot of Takizawa with his blood red lips.
With the one eye.
Oh man, it was awesome.
It was good.
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
It was not a lot to talk about.
Episode 5 will be a lot better.
You know what? I like your optimism.
I'm excited. I'm excited. I've had a rough week. I'm looking like blue skies ahead. It's got to get better.
What do you got? Anything going on this week?
No. I'm just writing a shit ton. I've got once again I write for a series called Seize and Deliver. Go to Instagram. Seize, like to take things and deliver. We're editing my first episode, which is pretty exciting. I just saw the footage, and it's like I didn't think it would even be that.
Where can people find you at?
You can find me on Instagram at zclap1, and my project at Season Deliver, and pretty much everything else is that. I don't even have fun Twitters and things.
Okay.
I'm not good.
You can find my personal stuff at the Dan Rudd on both Twitter, Instagram, and then check out Boy Hero Band at Boy Hero Band, Twitter, Instagram. Do that. Well, until next week, Tuesday, 2 o'clock, the real time, not this fake time that we've made up.
Yep. It happens.
It does. All right, thank you guys.
Thanks so much.
Bye bye.
See ya.